Stop complaining about your haters. Stop complaining that people are hating on you. People are talking about you. People are jealous of you. They are envious of you. Listen, anytime you do something that's worthwhile, anytime you do something that's meaningful, be prepared to have people have an opinion or to say something about it. If you don't want any quote unquote haters, if you don't want anybody to talk about you or to form an opinion of you, then say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. But if you want to be all that God has called you to be, if you want to do everything that He has called you to do, be prepared to have people talking about you. But who cares? Be encouraged, keep going, keep being great. One of the most ironic things when it comes to people, and there's a lot of ironic things, but one of the most ironic things when it comes to people is that they will stop talking to you when they owe you an apology. Yeah, it's ironic. It makes no logical sense. Why would you stop talking to me when you owe me the apology? You would think I would stop talking to you, but it usually doesn't work like that. They stop talking to you. I know it hurts. I know it doesn't make sense. It's crazy. It's ironic. Whatever other word you want to use for that. The only thing you can do is pray for them and continue to love them, even if it's from a distance. Don't take it personal. Take it to God. Be encouraged. It'll get better.
A lady asked an old street vendor, "How much do you sell your eggs for?" The old man replied, 50 cents an egg, madam. The lady responded, "I'll take 6 eggs for $2 or I'm leaving." The old salesman replied, "Buy them at the price you want, madam. This is a good start for me because I haven't sold a single egg today and I need this to live." She bought her eggs at a bargain price and left with the feeling that she had won. She got into her fancy car and went to a fancy restaurant with her friend. She and her friend ordered what they wanted. They ate a little and left a lot of what they had asked for, so they paid the bill, which was $150. The ladies gave $200 and told the fancy restaurant owner to keep the change as a tip. This story might seem quite normal to the owner of the fancy restaurant, but very unfair to the egg seller. The question it raises is, why do we always need to show that we have power when we buy from the needy? And why are we generous to those who don't even need our generosity? So share this with others and push this attempt of humanization one step further in the right direction. If you are not following me, you might not see me again. But if you are, congratulations, you are growing every day.
Certainly been tensions between the council and the executive from time to time. How do you see that relationship?
Well, I'd like to think that we're going to have a good relationship with whoever the county executive is. I mean, that would be my position going into all this, should I win the election. I believe the people were the ones back 16 years ago that chose the county executive form of government. So I would say if anybody wants to change that form of government, we need to ask the people, not the council.
By 2070, the world as we know it will be unrecognizable. Imagine a time when everyone is equipped with ultra-advanced smartphones that make today's devices look primitive. This phone has already been released in China. We're on the verge of a new era where humans and technology merge, creating real-life cyborgs. Our daily lives are set to be transformed in ways we can barely imagine. Gas stations without people. It's happening now. In many parts of the world, robots are already fueling cars, and this trend is only accelerating. Delivery services are undergoing a revolution. Giants like Amazon and Google are racing to perfect drone and robot deliveries, promising lightning-fast service like never before. Even the hospitality industry is embracing this wave of change. In places like Japan and China, robots are taking over roles traditionally held by humans. They're checking guests into hotels, serving meals, and even cleaning rooms, offering a glimpse into a future of seamless efficiency. How do you feel about living in a world that's changing this fast? If you're not following, you might never see us again. But if you are, congrats. You're learning something new every day.
So hi, I'm Julie Giordano. I am running on the Republican ticket for county executive. I am a lifelong conservative Republican. My parents are conservative Republican. My grandparents are conservative Republican. So conservative values have been the core of my upbringing. Some of you know me as Miss Giordano or Miss G. I have been a teacher in Wacomico County Public Schools. This is year 17 for me. Okay. But not only am I a teacher, I've also been a human resources manager. I've also been an events manager. So I've worked in the private and public sector along with education. And kind of like people up here, they're running because they want to see a change. They want to see something different. We've kind of come to a little stale here in Wacomico County, and I really want to make a difference. I love that James is 29 years old and he is running. I think that is amazing. I mean, and I just like to clap. When I was 29 years old, I still was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I was growing up, like when I grew up. So anyway, what I want to run on, and the reason I decided to run for county executive is because as a teacher, I couldn't run for county council. I wanted to run for county council. It's actually something that I thought about. And I know it's taking a deep dive into politics, believe me. I am a member of the Women's Federation. I also chartered and chaired the Lower Shore Young Republicans here. I'm also part of an amazing group called the Delmarva Conservative Movement. We have about 50 members, and we are coming in strong. We have people working on precinct projects. We have people looking at voter integrity. We have people looking at a lot of different things that I think a lot of us have had questions about over the last year or so. Of course, one of my big supporting things is education. Okay? It doesn't mean that I'm going to take all of our county money and throw it at our schools by any means. I am very much pro-teacher, pro-student, and pro-parent. I am all of it. I was all of those things. I have students at home. I was a student. I'm a teacher right now, and I'm also a parent. And I am a little concerned about the things that are going on in our school system. I would have loved to have piggybacked off of what Mr. Lombardo said. I'm in it every single day. So, don't think you won't get a question. Okay. I'm also obviously pro-Second Amendment, big supporter of our law enforcement, our first responders, yeah, absolutely. All about lower taxes, and protecting you. My biggest thing is I am not focusing on necessarily the city of Salisbury. I have been to different fire departments. I've been to Willards, I've been to Pittsville, I've been to Powellville. I've been out to Sharptown. I visited all the town municipalities. I'm kind of focusing on all of our people. I want to be your voice. That building on Main Street is your building. When you look at the hierarchy of government, it's not the county executive at the top, it's the people that are at the top. And I want to represent you. So I hope you'll vote for me June 28th. Hopefully you all get that card.
Okay, a lot of people have been asking where is the Republican store at? And here we are, 100 North Division Street. As you can probably see here, the government office building right there, the Ross building right there. Here we go. So anyway, here we are. This is going to be the Republican headquarters. We're just going to walk in real quick and see what all we have. As we get close, we're met at the door by our future president and our future vice president. Hello, gentlemen. As we see the Wacomico flag, and I'm with Andy Harris. Are you? The only Harris that I'm with. Just saying.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Hello, and here we go. We got this bright brother here, and brother, what we got here today?
We have got all kinds of things for President Trump. We've got shirts, we've got flags, we've got brochures, we've got bumper stickers, we've got the signs for what's going on in our county. If you're a Wacomico County resident, you want to vote against Question A.
How do you feel about Question A personally?
Question A is a checks and balance for our local government. Mm-hmm. We should be able to take that and always have a check and balance, because if not, the scale goes this way. And we need to continue. It's not the person that's in the job. Mm-hmm. It is the job. It's been in effect for 18 years. Mm-hmm. And the young lady that's doing a job there, I think personally, is doing a fine job.
Awesome.
But we need to make sure they're trying to get rid of that job and that position so that they can have all control power. And that's not how government works.
That's not how our democracy works.
No, sir, not at all.
Wow.
Not at all.
Now, have you had any interaction with our county executive that we currently have?
Oh, I certainly have. I first met her down at one of the fire companies, Powellville Fire Company, which I am proud to say I'm an honorary member of.
All right. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
We love to help the community and the ones it's in. I love the way she talked. She came in with other representatives that really, she's a fair person and she's a very intelligent person because she knows her government. And I then met her later at a town meeting in Pittsville, which it just put the icing on the cake. It confirmed that she's a wonderful person. I've had multiple conversations with her. She's the person that we need for that job. But like I said, the question A is not about Julie. It's about keeping that position there so that we don't have an unbalanced government. We have to have all three pieces to make it work.
Now, how about term limits? How do you feel about term limits?
Term limits, I think that should be, you shouldn't be able to stay more than 2. I like that. It's nice to have a little bit of mentoring from the group before, but we don't need to make it a career.
Career politicians are not good for society, in my opinion. What do you think?
Mine is the same way. You look at in Washington, we have people that go in and they make $150,000 a year or somewhere's in that area, and they all come out millionaires. How does that work?
Right, true. Now, how long have you been living in Wicomico County?
All my life.
So how do you feel about our council? And has there been anybody maybe on there? You don't have to say their name, that they've maybe been on there a little too long.
Yes, there's several of them.
And we
need a change there too.
Now, you being with the fire department means you've actually seen some of the things that either they help with or don't help with. Do you feel that a change in the council would be good for the fire departments? And
it would be, because we have to go out and we still have bake sales like the churches used to have to do to raise money. And we do that because a piece of fire equipment that used to be $100,000 is now $1 million to buy.
Wow.
And these are volunteer men that get up at 3 o'clock in the morning for no pay to come and save your life or put your house fire out. They'll come to the accident and they'll help you. These people their heart and soul is in their community, and they don't get nowhere near enough backing from federal or state to be able to keep those up and running. They a lot of times sacrifice what they're doing. And if you look at the fire departments now, the youth that's behind them is just like anything else. It's dropping off, dropping off, dropping off. You've got to have a fire department that is geared for the youth too, bringing them along, making it interesting for them, because that will be our future firefighters and EMS and paramedics that we will have.
Awesome. Now, do you feel that, so I know there's still things that we can improve. I personally remember, because I'm from the west side of the county down Nanticoke Road, that the West Side Fire Department, we had a town hall right before actually our now executive was actually, she actually won her election. And, you know, they had spoken on many things that were needed in the firehouse, including like for the volunteers, they didn't have tax credits and things like that. Do you feel that since Madam Executive's been in office that things have gotten better for the fire departments?
They certainly have gotten better. There's still a long ways to go, but she respects our jobs and she's behind us for what we're doing. And it's hard to find that, because a lot of people nowadays, they just take for granted that, whoop, they're there, but we'll build another development over 100 more homes, but yet nothing goes to your volunteer fire department.
Wow.
And with doing that, Julie has been very supportive of the volunteer fire departments. Like I said, that was the first place I met her. And she helps us, but the fire companies need so much more. We're struggling, but we're not giving up the fight. So we're going to keep staying right there, taking care of our community and our family and friends.
Awesome. Now, do you feel that if we didn't have an executive and it was just a councilmatic or just a 7 that are going to be on it, do you think that would be a plus for the fire department?
Not at all. Not at all. Because you never want to put your government in a position where us 4 and no more make the commitment to what you're doing. There needs to be checks and balances in everything. And Julie makes a very good balance to what's happening there. She's a very fair person,
Right.
and she's for each and every one in Wicomico County and the businesses also.
By the way, what's your name again, my brother?
Tom Bell.
Okay, now, Tom, I appreciate you taking the time out. Now, of course, looking forward to election in a couple of weeks. Do you have anything you would like to say?
Yes, I do. President Trump, in July, they tried to assassinate him. And they clipped his ear. Again, they tried to assassinate him. And in my belief, God has his hand on this man right here. Because the Lord knows what this country needs right now. And he wrote the book on it. He knows the beginning and the end.
Amen.
And with what we've got running our country now, the end would be very close. With Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, as he's grooming J.D. Vance, that should be another 4 years and another 4 years. And I do believe that in this country, that group that he's got positioned together now can get this country out of what we're into.
Awesome. Once again, we're here with Bridging the Gap, and we're at the Republican headquarters. That is 100 North Division Street here in Salisbury, Maryland. And before I actually finish, I want to go ahead and zoom in on this right here. That means a whole lot. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for taking the time out. And more importantly than hearing what we're saying here, make sure you get out and vote. Make sure you make a difference. And also, even more important than getting out and vote, believe it or not, something more important than that is pray for your leaders. Never forget, every morning you get up, whether you like them or not, the Bible lets us know that we need to pray for our leaders.
Pray for our nation. Yes.
And definitely pray for the nation. And trust what God tells you, not what your next door neighbor does. Right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senators, for providing me an opportunity to address this important issue. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are an employer and you've got some problems with your employees. When you hired these employees, they promised they would do exactly what you asked of them. But once they got the job, they became a nightmare. They stopped listening to you and started using the job to line their own pockets. They took the company credit card and racked up more debt than you could afford to pay back. They became so obsessed with keeping their jobs that they forgot to do their jobs. And after all that failure, all that disappointment, and all that incompetence, your employees came to you and said, "We deserve a raise." If you're a reasonable person, that should make your blood boil. And yet, that is exactly what it feels like to be an American taxpayer. The first three words in our Constitution are "we the people." It's written larger than anything else because the framers of that document, the architects of our republic, wanted to remind you at all times who's in charge. We, the people. We are your employers, and you have an obligation to listen to us. So I come to you with a message from the American people. We demand term limits for members of Congress. In fact, according to the most recent national polls on the issue, 82% of Americans want term limits. That includes support from 89% of Republicans, 76% of Democrats, and 83% of independent voters. This is not a left or right issue. This is an American issue. In fact, term limits could be the only issue with support from both President Trump and former President Obama. Now, there was a time about 25 years ago when Congress was debating this. Nearly every opponent of term limits up here had the same rebuttal. Experience, experience, experience. We need experience to do this job right. If only you leave your Congress member in office for decades on end, he or she will become such a policy expert that all our problems will be solved. In hindsight, that was one of the worst predictions ever. This system is broken. Congress has given us $22 trillion in debt, the longest war in American history, a broken healthcare system, a broken immigration system, a tax code written by lobbyists, an explosion of money in politics. Worst of all, too few here have the courage to address these problems because the only focus is on getting reelected. That's why it comes as no surprise that Congress has a 14% approval rating, and 60% of Americans say that they would fire every single member of Congress if they could. Congress is less popular than traffic jams, root canals, and hemorrhoids. You're beating head lice, but the lice have asked for a recount. Unfortunately, elections alone cannot fix this problem. Not because voters like you guys so much, but due to the nearly unbreakable power of incumbency. At the same time members of Congress publicly claim elections are free and fair, they secretly deploy every trick in the book to keep power. Incumbents get $9 in special interest money for every dollar that goes to a challenger. And if incumbents are having difficulty raising money, not to worry, they're allowed to send campaign-style mailers at taxpayer expense. That's to say nothing of all the free media and name recognition politicians naturally get just for being in office. The incumbent advantage creates a barrier to entry for everyday Americans without the connections to fund a campaign. It is the case for term limits. Elections may, in theory, be capable of dethroning incumbents, but that isn't how it works in the real world. Congressional incumbents have a 98% re-election rate. That probably explains why Congress looks more like a country club than a melting pot. It's predominantly made up of lawyers and politicians, and is disproportionately old, white, rich, and male. Term limits would give us a legislature that better reflects the diversity of our society. The message long-term incumbents send to young people like me seems to be, we want you just close enough to the political process to help us win, but don't get too close and take our jobs. The American people have lost confidence in this Congress, and for good reason. We routinely see abuses of power. 18 months ago, it was revealed that members of Congress were secretly using taxpayer money to settle lawsuits, some for sexual harassment. You still haven't disclosed how our money was spent and on whose behalf. So term limits is a check on arrogance, it's a check on incumbency, and it's a check on power. It's a way to restore political courage while bringing fresh faces and ideas to Washington. As Ben Franklin said, for the rulers to return among the people was not to degrade them, but to promote them. As Kanye West said, no one man should have all that power. Here's the dilemma we face. Over 80% of Americans want term limits to happen. Donald Trump and Barack Obama want it. It is being blocked purely by the self-interest of Congress. If this were a trial, you all would have to recuse yourselves because there is a colossal conflict of interest. If term limits pass, you won't stay in the limelight forever. You won't be the center of attention, and some people might even stop laughing at your jokes. You'll have to become ordinary citizens. And that is, my friends, the entire point. We're asking you to do what's right and listen to the people you represent. It's time to bring the gravy train into the station, end the reign of career politicians, and give Congress back to the people. Please support Senate Joint Resolution 1 for term limits. Thank you.
I've heard a couple of times before that closed mouths don't get fed. I've also heard if you don't speak up, don't complain when things go haywire. Welcome back to a Bridging the Gap newsroom. I want to speak for a few moments to my friends, some family out there. I like to call everybody family, but I want to talk about some things that are going on, and just want to speak directly about the situations. This county, Wicomico, the place that I love, the place that God allowed me to be born in, and I spend time praying for, and I call this home, Wicomico. This is a place where there's a big melting pot of different people, and that's great. That's great. Where I'm from is a little small place. It's actually, I used to call it a little country town, but really it's just a road called Weetipwin. But not just being from that little small place in this place called Wicomico, I learned love. I learned love at a very young age. Love will move mountains, and hate will build them. We see a lot of things going on here locally. I'm talking about with government, with just people. Not just here locally, but I'm talking about here locally in this setting here. We're talking about arguments that affect everyone, including our next generation. I'm concerned about that. We elect leaders to lead us in carrying out the governmental, operations day to day. But it seems like we only see nothing but stalemates. And the younger eyes are watching that. We have many things that need to be dealt with. There's many roads in this county that's not fixed. There's many there's many places that really need some attention. But what we do is we bicker. We tie up taxpayers' money in court. And again, we go through a year and a half into this one, but we go year after year with no change. That's really concerning. From what I hear, they want to do away with the executive form of government. That's going to truly be up to what happens at the in November on the ballot. But I also say, if you're going to do that, let's go ahead and also do away with these career politicians. I'm talking about maybe putting term limits. No, definitely putting term limits on our local officials. I'm talking about countywide. Reason why, okay? Some things have not changed in years because we haven't changed those that are elected to lead. Now, you know, the good old boy system, and people do vote the same way over and over and over. If they see familiar names, they're not going for change. They're going for just the normal. And people may be good in have different talents, but you know what? God has blessed many people with talents. The stalemate that we've had in this county, I think, has been definitely a result of conflict. And, you know, I've had people advise me over the years because I've only really been knowing about our local politics for about 2.5 years. But people who have been around for a while have told me that it's been going on for years and it's the same names. Term limits. Term limits is something that we can have a control over if we get together and we vote it. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. If they've been in there too long, it's time for a change. If they've been in there for 2 terms, which is equivalent to 8 years, I mean, come on now, we don't even keep a president over 8 years. It's time for a change. This county needs to go forward. And if you have just the same old faces making the same old decisions and sitting in the same old rooms in a corner with the same old people, we're going to have the same old opposition. Do we need to do away with the executive form of government? Next thing you know, they'll be doing that nationwide. We have to keep the main thing, and maybe change the players in the game. Truly, and I'm not saying be for this person or that person. I'm talking about be for the future. And look, I want to say this to those elected leaders and community leaders and even ministry. Be careful with the example that you're leaving for the generation to come. For 2 reasons. Well, the first is the obvious reason, because you don't want to pollute their minds and pollute what they're going to do in the future. But most importantly, because God is watching you. You know, the same God that you pledge allegiance and you say one nation under God, the same God that you say you believe in when you're trying to get that vote, the God that made you, he's watching everything we do. And when it's all said and done, it's not going to matter whether or not you Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's going to matter whether or not you are a servant or not. Serve. That means to be an avenue of service to someone else, to help someone, not to just serve your own pocket, serve your own agenda. If you are elected to lead, then lead. Truly. And if you've been in this thing for more than 8 years, it's time to move over. Let's get some fresh people in there. Let's get some fresh fire in there. There's so much that needs to be done. I can tell you on the west side, there's so many things. There's parks that need to be taken care of. There's, you know, different facilities popping up in the middle rural areas that need to be addressed. There's schools that need to be built. There's things that need to be repaired, our roads, all kinds of things. But if we're still doing the same old thing, expecting a different result, we're living in a thing they call insanity. It's great to have a track record of saving money. It's great to call yourself conservative. But my question is this: what difference are you making? What difference are we making for those coming up? I love this county. I love everyone in this county. I believe that God has blessed me to be here with the people that he has surrounded me with. And I don't take that lightly, doing what I need to do through God unto the people. But when I see things going in the wrong direction, if I don't speak up, God's going to hold me in account for it. We really need to start thinking about these things. Again, 10,000 names. We need to get 10,000 names and on a petition so we can get term limits on the ballot. Now, look, I'm going to also say this to those that don't like the fact I'm talking about term limits. Look, I'm looking out for you too, because the time that you get wrapped up in so much politics, which my bishop once said he got in politics once, it took 2 weeks to get him off. All that time you're spending in politics, you could be spending with your family. You could be spending in a relationship with God. We get so wrapped up in politics that we forget about making a change. I love you, Wicomico. I love everyone. Whether you like me or not, I love you. But we have to, first of all, let me say this also. We need to pray for all of our leaders. Whether you elected them or not, if they're in leadership over you, from the president on down, you need to pray for them. We need to lift each other up and stop tearing each other down. Man, we have taken social media and made it a arena that we just rip each other apart. Friends that would have been friends outside of the political realm are now ripping each other apart. Stop it. Jesus is coming back. And you can't find an excuse that God's going to say, oh, okay, that's cool when he comes back, because he's coming back for his church. He's coming back for servants. Serve. Love one each other. Love one another. Love God first. Love one another. And, just be in love with changing for the better. I love each and every one of you. I truly do. More importantly than me, God loves you. We'll be talking soon.